Hello, church, and a good morning to you on November 11th as we honor our veterans for this veterans celebration and wish you all well. We actually have our ministerium luncheon over at Moshe's. I wanted to go online to make sure that the train stop was open since it is Veterans Day, and they're actually doing a veterans recognition and giving half off your bill. So if you're interested in getting some Italian today and or a veteran, and thank you for your service, you might want to check that out. So yesterday we started Psalm 118. This is the last in our series of Hallel Psalms, these Psalms of praise to God. We did an introduction and read the whole thing, and now we're going to focus on the particular sections. So today we're focusing on the first section. We'll give you some commentary from Mays. Tomorrow, you might be able to guess, will be our second section. And then there are very likely going to be several things that we need to pull out. So this might take us to the end of the week, and we'll see what all we get to. But so here's our first part. I uplifted yesterday in the introduction. So we have this repeated beginning and ending, which talks about God's Hesed for Psalm 118. And then we have this kind of introductory material where it talks about the house of Israel, the house of Aaron, and all those who fear the Lord. And then we get into the body of the psalm. So it's going to be verses 5 to 18 that's going to constitute our first section. And from the New Revised Standard Version. And this is the intro part again. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His steadfast love endures forever. Let Israel say, his steadfast love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, his steadfast love endures forever. Let those who fear the Lord say, his steadfast love endures forever. And now here we go with our first portion. Out of my distress, I called on the Lord. The Lord answered me and set me in a broad place. With the Lord on my side, I do not fear. What can mortals do to me? The Lord is on my side to help me. I shall look in triumph on those who hate me. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to put confidence in mortals. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. All nations surrounded me. In the name of the Lord, I cut them off. They surrounded me on every side. In the name of the Lord, I cut them off. They surrounded me like bees. They blazed like a fire of thorns. In the name of the Lord, I cut them off. I was pushed hard so that I was falling, but the Lord helped me. The Lord is my strength and my might. He has become my salvation. There are glad songs of victory in the tents of the righteous. The right hand of the Lord does valiantly. The right hand of the Lord is exalted. The right hand of the Lord does valiantly. I shall not die, but I shall live and recount the deeds of the Lord. The Lord has punished me severely, but he did not give me over to death. It's a really good example of the importance of repetition for us, and this kind of pattern of response to God, and in the midst of vast circumstances, being able to come back and do that. And I think particularly for 118, it really stands out in a very, very good way. I had to click off something there. Sorry about that. And here's James Mays. In the first section, an individual praises the Lord by testifying to the community. The theme of the testimony is stated in verse 5. The singer was in distress and called on the Lord for help. The Lord answered and rescued him. This brief narrative of salvation is the hallmark of the individual song of thanksgiving. The section has 3 parts. Each bears witness to the significance and effect of the Lord's salvation. The parts are held together by repetitions and by an interweaving of motifs. The pair of doublets in verses 6 to 9 contrast reliance on the Lord with either threat or help from human sources. The motif mortals, the Hebrew man, connects the two. And that was the section where it was talked about not trusting in humans, not trusting in princes. The second part, verses 10 to 14, begins with three similar lines featuring the motif of the name of the Lord. The motif identifies the real source of strength that enables the celebrant to resist the power of surrounding nations, a motif that continues the emphasis on human powers in contrast to the Lord. Verses 13 to 14 assert further that the celebrant's survival and strength came from the Lord, who in his deliverance became his salvation. The third part, verses 15 to 18, picks up the motif of salvation from verse 14 in songs of salvation and repeats the song three times. The motif of the song is the right hand of the Lord, another expression for the Lord's power exercised among human beings and nations. The motif, die and death, appears in verses 17 to 18 to describe the true measure of the salvation. It means life in the praise of the Lord in contrast to death. We talked about it a little bit in the introduction, but all of those motifs we hear repeated in Psalm 118 are also a part of other Hallel Psalms starting back in 113 and working through. So it's a really neat culmination to this section. And then here's our first portion for Eugene Peterson. One of the pieces of repetition in Peterson that I want you to listen for is when in the NRSV it's being translated as "in the name of God" or "in the name of the Lord, I cut them off." Just hear that because it's different here. Thank God because he's good, because his love never quits. Tell the world, Israel, his love never quits. And you, clan of Aaron, tell the world his love never quits. And you who fear God, join in. His love never quits. Pushed to the wall, I called to God. From the wide open spaces, he answered, God's now at my side, and I'm not afraid. Who would dare lay a hand on me? God's my strong champion. I flick off my enemies like flies. Far better to take refuge in God than trust in people. Far better to take refuge in God than trust in celebrities. Hemmed in by barbarians, in God's name, I rub their faces in the dirt. Hemmed in and with no way out, in God's name, I rub their faces in the dirt. Like swarming bees, like wild prairie fire, they hem me in. In God's name, I rub their faces in the dirt. I was right on the cliff edge, ready to fall, when God grabbed and held me. God's my strength. He's also my song, and now he's my salvation. Hear the shouts, hear the triumph songs in the camp of the saved. The hand of God has turned the tide. The hand of God is raised in victory. The hand of God has turned the tide. I didn't die. I live. And now I'm telling the world what God did. God tested me. He pushed me hard, but he didn't hand me over to death. So that in the name of the Lord, I cut them off. That's what Peterson is using as rub their faces in the dirt. Oh, okay. And then, and I think I mentioned this in the previous, for God's steadfast love and faithfulness, when we're referring to Hesed, Peterson uplifts his love never quits. A good contemporary idiom. So that's Psalm 118. One last little line. When I hit that about the what Peterson used on the tide, the hand of God has turned the tide. There's this image that continues to pop into my head from the Lord of the Rings series, and it's right in the midst of a pretty significant battle and edge of defeat. It's Gandalf has disappeared. I won't get into it any more than that. But he comes back to them and he says, I come to you at the changing of the tide as things are about to get reversed. And so thank you, God, for turning the tide for us all. And may we continue to experience God's Hesed Have a great day, and we'll be back with you tomorrow as we continue with section 2. See ya.